So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can analyze actual real estate deals using ChatGPT. And I'm going to show you how to do that at the end because I'm going to take an actual deal that we found through our Facebook ad system and we're going to analyze the actual deal where one of our clients was able to make $40K on an assignment fee. So make sure to stay to the end and I'll be showing you the exact deal and basically how to use ChatGPT to create prompts and analyze the deal. So I made this little guide here to kind of assist with the entire process because there's a few different types of prompts that I'm going to cover and some different things that I've learned along the way with using ChatGPT 4. So basically, here's the framework for success. So the way that this whole thing works is with a prompt. So you can literally tell ChatGPT exactly what you want it to do, and then you can tell it to start the iterative process of working together to accomplish the goal. So for example, most people are using ChatGPT in what I call skip the line prompts. So they're just saying, do this for me, right? Which is great. But when you really start to understand how these prompts work and how when you prompt ChatGPT to basically, align around a specific goal, that it'll basically stay in that groove and it can take you through an actual process of refining what you're trying to get done. So it's really, really cool. So for example, if I want to use ChatGPT to specific goal, right? This is where I'll show you exactly how to do this, but you can literally tell ChatGPT, I want to use ChatGPT to your specific goal. Please respond back with questions and suggestions so that we can start the iterative process of the and then specific goal. So remember to be as specific as possible. So ChatGPT has all the context that it needs to basically help you refine the process. So once you input this, right, then you're going to respond back to the prompt. So if you create an effective ChatGPT initial prompt, you should easily be able to engage with ChatGPT through an iterative process of exactly what you're looking to accomplish. So I have literally spent an hour or more on one prompt in an extremely advanced level technical automation conversation. So one of the things that I've been working on is building a qualifying motivated seller bot. And I was asking ChatGPT how to do it. And it was engaging with me at the level that, I've engaged with high level, programmers and developers. When I was consulting at Loan Depot for, a few months, I just remember feeling like, wow, these are the only people that basically know, what it is that I'm talking about. And so I literally can have those exact same conversations with ChatGPT 4. So this is where, if you really know a subject or you're really advanced and you know the exact questions to ask, it can carry on a very in-depth conversation with you, and I'll be showing you how to do that. So that was basically, what I was saying here. And yeah, so you literally have a multi-million-dollar tool at your call at any moment. So I highly recommend the paid version. I really don't see why somebody wouldn't use the paid version, just because the value that you can extract from this, that you would maybe pay an assistant or whatever it is, can easily be made back within one successful prompt. So that's the framework. So that's basically what we're going to do is we're going to start with a prompt, and then I'm going to show you how to engage with the prompt or what I've done to engage with the prompt. So table of contents. So I'm going to go over these 5 main prompts, and I pretty much came up with these terms, I think. I mean, there's probably other people that know these terms, and I've learned some of these prompts from other people, so I didn't invent them, but this is just how I named them. So if you try to Google them or something like that, they most likely won't come up. So iterative prompts. So we're going to cover iterative prompts. We're going to cover skip the line prompts. We're going to cover bow tie prompts, conversion prompts, and then iterative deal analysis prompts, which is, if you're a real estate investor, this is a mega, like prompt that you'll be able to see. So here we go. So also along with this, tutorial, I've got a bunch of examples that I've already, put in here that I've put for each specific type of prompt. So let's start with the iterative prompt. So I want to use ChatGPT to specific goal. Please respond back with questions and suggestions so we can start the iterative process of that goal. So I came up with some examples, right? You can apply this to any type of business that you have and use it in whatever way that you choose. But the main thing is to follow this type of formula, okay? So we can take one of these, right? So for example, let's just take something that I'm familiar with, right? Which is running Facebook ads to find motivated sellers and off-market deals. So I'm going to just take number 2, okay? So I basically took, this prompt that, was I want to use ChatGPT to, and then specific goal. And then I input the specific goal with write high converting Facebook ads to generate customers for my business, right? So that is a little bit general, right? I'm not saying that I'm a real estate investor, right? I'm not saying that I own a restaurant or whatever it is, right? So based on this prompt, right, in order to write a high converting Facebook ad to generate customers for my business, this should be prompting me with specific questions and suggestions and basically guardrails so that I can answer those questions successfully, and then it can then produce the result, which is the high converting Facebook ad. So what I'm going to do is just basically paste this here, and keep in mind this is ChatGPT 4. So it is a little bit slower, but I found it to be a lot better. So you can see, I'm happy to help you create high converting Facebook ads for your business. To get started, I'm going to need some information about your business and your target audience, right? So this is where these guardrails come in, right? And you can imagine how powerful this is with subjects that you don't even know the full scope of, right? Because if you just know the right question to ask, right, you can basically put in this type of a prompt and it's going to come up with the questions that you should be asking about that specific subject. Now, keep in mind, ChatGPT is not perfect and there's things that may be missing and things that it just won't be able to produce as well as somebody that really knows the subject or is a niche expert, right? But in general, when I've tested it, it's pretty solid, right? So what you would do here, and this is the iterative process, I don't want to go super far in depth into each one and filling each one out because that that's going to take too much time. But basically, what I could do here is I'm going to just, act as my company but just pretend that, I'm my ideal client, which is an investor. So, New Breed Investor is the name of the company. The services are basically we help homeowners sell their homes for cash. And then 2 is going to be what makes your products or services unique or different from your competitors. So we offer cash, can close in 10 days, no hassle, no realtors, no fees, right? Who is your target audience? We can say homeowners going through probate or pre-foreclosure, right? And I'm doing these very general. If you're really going to do this process, you want to really carve this thing out. I just want to show you how you would actually engage with it, right? Do you have any current promotions or special offers that you'd like to highlight in the ad? You can just say no for this. And then learn more. So I can just say click learn more to get an all cash offer, right? Or an instant all caps are offer. Okay, and then for 7, are there any specific images? So no. And I think when ChatGPT 4 is able to, take inputs like actual images and stuff, number 7 may be valuable. And then desired, because you could maybe upload your image or ad or something, and then it could like form the copy around that, right? But what is your desired tone for the ad? So should it be professional, friendly, humorous, or something else? So I would just say, you can just say like friendly is fine. I'll just do a combination of sales, copy, professionalism, and friendly. I'll just see what it does on there. So you could tell, right? Like, let's say I'm an investor that has no idea how to run a Facebook ad. I mean, they could answer these questions, right? So by inputting this is going to create the ad, right? So this is the initial draft. So like I said, this is like you as a, this is like you working with the AI to actually carve out what you're looking to do, right? And you can see, right? So there's some things like just off the bat that maybe we would change. I don't know. I wouldn't maybe put the company name, we can help, but hey, it's pretty good, right? So far, right? So that's the process, right? And so what's really cool about this is it's going to tell us to review the draft. And then basically, if you have any feedback or changes you want to make, then we can continue refining the ad until it meets your expectations and is ready to start generating customers. So with this specific iterative prompt, it didn't really ask any questions because it probably thinks that these 8 questions are pretty much the only ones that you need. And, you could definitely go more in depth into writing an ad, but to some extent, it's pretty accurate, right? You don't really need much more than this. Maybe you need a headline and stuff like that. So like I said, you do have to have some knowledge of the subject, because if you don't and you just do one component of what the AI says, you may not necessarily get the entire picture. But that's how an iterative prompt works. And basically you can continue to go through the process of refining what you're trying to do with ChatGPT versus, I know most people do what is here in this prompt, right? Which is what I call these skip the line prompts. So instead of like iterating on like an ad or something that you're wanting to accomplish, a lot of people will just try to produce the output, which is the result, which is fine. But if you really want to maximize like what the AI can do, or you want to actually collaborate with it, which sounds funny to say, then you're going to want to do an iterative prompt versus a skip the line prompt. But a skip the line prompt is basically specific goal and context about your business. So I'm going to use the same, prompt basically, but in a different format. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new chat just so it doesn't save the, that prompt in there, and create high converting Facebook ads to generate customers. So this is where you do have to say context about your business, because if you don't say that, then it'll probably ask you, or just create like a general business ad. And so the real key thing to understanding this, ChatGPT, is basically figuring out, right, how to actually, engage with it so it produces the result that you want. So create high converting Facebook ads to generate customers. I am a real estate investor looking for more distressed properties to buy. So sometimes this language would be to generate leads or whatever it is, but you can see this is basically your skip the line prompt, right? So now it's not, asking you any sort of questions about, who your target market is. It's taking all the information that it already has, and it's just basically producing a result. And personally, right, based on the initial ads, right, you could tell the first one was in more depth, right? But this still works. It's just like I said, I do think the iterative process can be really valuable because it's almost like I see it like you're hiring somebody, right? And they're asking you the scope of the project. And so if it's anything related to something you can accomplish with ChatGPT, obviously ChatGPT is not gonna, log into your computer, do a bunch of tasks and basically just do everything for you. It's gonna produce these outputs, right? So you can see kind of the difference between the two, right? One is skipping the line. You're just like, I don't even know, right, the potential answers to those questions. I'm just gonna basically tell it to respond with the result that I want, and I'll just pick through that, right? But I'm showing you a very low level way to use both of these, right? Like I said, when I was going through the process and when we go through the deal analysis prompt, you'll see how powerful that is. But when I was using the iterative prompt for building an actual automation, it got really, really interesting. I mean, I was blown away by I know people are like hyped up about ChatGPT, but this has been my world for, pretty much my whole life is bots, automation, technology. So, not that other people being blown away by the technology is not, meaningful too, but, I've been around a lot of these different things and, seen things behind the scenes with automation or whatever it is. So, when I tell you I was engaging in a very high level conversation with it about something very, very specific that I've talked to people that have been, using a specific tool or software or platform and couldn't maintain that same level of conversation and this could, that was when I really was able to see like, wow, it's just going to get better even faster. And if you're an investor, you'll see with the deal analysis prompt how interesting it does get. Okay, so that's the skip the line prompt, and these are just some other examples. You can use that here. Now these are really, really cool ones. I don't think people know about these bow tie prompts is what I call them. So basically after the desired response has been reached, and this is actually a perfect one because it created 4 ads with all the components of the ad like separated, which is perfect, especially when you're training people to learn things. If you can get it in some form of like spreadsheet, I know it sounds weird, but if you can get it in a spreadsheet where each thing is isolated and it's not this super huge, confusing, daunting task or whatever it is, it can really help somebody new because you'll see what I'm going to do with this right here, and I've used this plenty of times. So this is a bow tie prompt. So after the desired response has been reached, now turn this into desired output result. So layer 1, create high converting Facebook ads to generate customers, which we just did. I'm a real estate investor looking for more distressed properties to buy. So layer 2, now convert this into a spreadsheet table with each individual part. So you sometimes have to say this if it writes the ads and kind of batches them all together. But I shouldn't have to say this here. I'm just going to do it anyway. So basically, it's going to create a table. So it should show me like which number of the ad is, right? And then separate each of these. So this is so, so powerful because like I said, if you're teaching somebody how to run Facebook ads or how to understand them or how to test the ads, think of how easy it is for somebody to understand like 4 different ads and how you would just copy paste those into, Facebook ads, for example, and that's it, right? Like these are the raw materials that go into running an ad. There's a little bit more like your targeting and placements, but this is really like if you're able to break this stuff down into spreadsheets, it really does kind of help at least me, maybe that's just my brain, but it does help people understand like, oh, like here's ad number 1, here's the image, here's the headline, here's the text, here's the call to action button, right? And it just gives somebody like a checklist box to basically, like go through if they're going to learn this, right? So this is what I call the bow tie prompts because you can actually, like I said, convert one form of an output into another. And I just call it like a bow tie. Like you're just tying the bow together. Like it produced the ad. Now you needed to turn it into a table. Boom. And I'm pretty sure I could even add a column and say, add a column that says task complete or something, and basically put a checkbox in there. And if somebody, copy and pasted this, right, now you could give it to a team member or whatever, say, hey, these are the 4 ads I want to run. When you run those, click on the checkbox and boom, there's your table, right? Like I said, if you really know your subject, you can really engage with it and do some pretty cool stuff, which I'm going to do more at the end. But this is really, really powerful too, because, it can help you stay organized too if maybe you're not as organized. And like I said, turning things into tables is really cool. I've tested it with like turning things into, pie charts and stuff like that and bar graphs, but it doesn't produce the actual image output quite yet. But I think it will be able to soon, where, you could give it a data set or something even like this and say, if you put in your ad results, you could basically show it like, hey, create this into a pie chart, right? So that's really powerful. So that's the bow tie prompt. Now, conversion prompt, which is basically just another layer of, the bow tie prompt is what I call. So after the desired response has been reached, right, turn this format, right? So we took this format and we turned it into a table. So now I have these other conversion prompts, which is like, how do we turn this into something else, right? So one of my favorite ones is to convert this table into a short story, just because it's like so odd to do it, but it should produce it. So so basically what it's going to do is it's going to either, there it is, right? I don't even know exactly what it's going to do, right? So there you go. Once upon a time in a small bustling town, there lived a real estate investor named Alex. Alex had a unique vision to turn distressed houses into dream homes for families in need. One sunny day, Alex set out on a mission to find more properties to buy and decided to launch a Facebook ad campaign to reach potential sellers. In the first ad, Alex showcased a beautiful transformation of a once distressed property. So it's literally explaining what this ad is, right? And, this is basically like what it's doing. It's taking each of these and turning it into a story with this other, I don't even know how it's doing it, right? So these are cool. This is more of a fun one than it probably is a practical one in terms of the story. But, keep in mind, you can potentially turn, stories into tables too if, the raw parts of each of the story can be, put into an actual table like that. So that's how these conversion prompts work, okay? So this one is the big one that is really, really powerful that I'm excited to show you. So basically, this is what I pretty much, I came up with this. I mean, I've used other, just my learnings to, create it. But I'm going to make a new chat and show you how this thing works. So the use case for this, right, is when a real estate investor is evaluating a real estate deal, right, there's certain inputs that if they know, right, and they're accurate, can produce them knowing, like, if it's a good deal, right? So the reason what drove me to creating this is because within what our system does, where we find these off-market deals, right? I'm constantly thinking about ways to make our system better. And so I was testing, right, this specific, type of a prompt to basically see if there was some way, right, within our system, within Go High Level, if there was a way to basically program the automation, right, to extract the inputs from that potential property and then score it and categorize it, right? it's not quite there yet in terms of just being able to automatically do it, right? And obviously you can evaluate a real estate deal with a, spreadsheet or, an Excel or whatever it is. But this, for someone like myself who's better with natural language and communicating with others and engaging with people and talking like through that way, something like this makes a lot more sense to me than, okay, I'm going to go in and build a calculator, even though I have built calculators. So kind of have both sides of my brain unlocked, but I just figured I would share this with you. So I want to use ChatGPT to help me evaluate a real estate deal and then score it numerically 1 to 10. 1 meaning a bad deal, 10 meaning the best deal in the world. I am a real estate investor that flips properties for a profit. Please respond back with questions and suggestions so we can start the iterative process of evaluating this deal. Now, I'm going to copy and paste this into here. But basically, when I tested this multiple times, we were able to, produce this type of successful output. So I may tell it to use, I may just batch this formula into one prompt and just tell it to use, these inputs, right? So basically, right, the other last thing I'll say before I do this is that this can really be powerful, right? Because let's say with our system, we find these off-market deals and we're finding leads, with property addresses for our clients, which are investors. And so, if we're going to add in, new team members or things like that are qualifying the leads, and obviously they need to have some real estate experience, right? The more the better. But, they can use this frame, right, to at least get a general picture of the actual lead in the deal. So like, let's say we generate a lead. The lead is engaging with us, right? If we were taking this in-house, the lead's engaging with us. They're willing to sell. They fit all the criteria of like willingness, right? And even the actual price that they're willing to sell for, right? They can use this prompt, right? And they could use a calculator, right? But like I said, it's ChatGPT, so it's pretty cool. And they can use this to basically create some sort of general score to tell the investor or internally mark the score of the lead, which we can then tell Facebook and things like that. Gets a little bit advanced in what I'm saying there. But if we can, measure, right, what these leads are scored as with an accurate prompt, then and it's consistent, then it's really, really powerful, right? So I'm going to basically copy this because, like I said, I don't know what outputs it's going to produce in terms of like the format. But basically, I can just say, here are the details. So there's the prompt, okay, and basically everything looks good enough to be, put in here. So some of this is real data. Some of this is like, just obviously from being in real estate, I know what, this is going to be like a deal, right? So some of these are just like inputs, right? It shows a city nearby where we are. So here we go. So now it's starting. So thank you for providing the necessary details to help evaluate this real estate deal. To start the evaluation, let's first calculate the potential profit and return on investment for this flip. Here's a breakdown of the costs and potential revenue, right? So it's basically adding in the total cost, purchase price, renovation, holding, and transaction, and taxes too would be in there. Potential profit is the ARV, which we provide. So you have to have the inputs, right? And then I also added some additional context that it can perform math on. So because ChatGPT is not connected to the internet, keep in mind, it's not going to be able to pull actual data from your city or whatever. These are just, I took this from Zillow as a frame of reference so that it can perform the math that it needs to basically evaluate the deal, right? So based on the information provided, this deal seems to have a decent potential profit with an ROI of 12.73%. The market conditions show a growing market, but homes are generally selling slightly below the list price. the median days to pending is shorter than your estimated flip time frame. So keep in mind, guys, when you're using this, you have to have the actual inputs, right? So what I shared in the actual iterative prompts is if you don't know your subject that well, then you're going to, you can put in something that it will produce questions and suggestions for that you can then use to respond to, which then produces a desired output, right? But if you don't know what you don't know, right, then you can potentially, input a prompt and, it doesn't calculate certain, components of the data, right? For example, I put in the, where's the taxes here? Yeah, the financing, taxes, and closing costs, etc., right? But, here it's not showing that. I'm not saying that it's not calculating it. It may just be, it's not calculating it because I input it. But for example, if somebody didn't know that, when somebody's buying a house cash and they're going to flip it, they may potentially be covering the taxes depending on how they buy it, then, somebody's going to cover them, right? It just kind of depends on, there's all kinds of ways that the deals get structured. So basically, if you don't know that though, right, and you just kind of like, oh, cool, like there it is, there's the answer, right? You may miss stuff, right? So I'm not saying to just blindly adhere to everything it says, but what I'm going to show you next, right, is some really cool things you can do. So basically, for a flip, right, which is what this, what I told it to do right here, right? I'm an investor that flips properties for a profit. So if I said that I was, somebody else, right? I'm a real estate developer, right? Looking for a rental, right? It's going to produce me potentially a different score, right? So this is the cool stuff that you can really do with this type of a system. So for example, where, I posted this in a group and some people, it's so funny, people get, I don't know, upset or whatever, but I was just like actually just posting in there like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not an expert in any means at real estate investing. I've learned a lot through one of my clients and, I'm actively learning, but I'm not like over here saying, oh, I'm some expert. But for this to produce me a result like this, if I just know the inputs, and yes, I have Excel calculators that, kind of do the same thing, but I can't interact with it and engage with it like what I'm going to show you next. I forgot what I was leading into, but basically I was posting in a group and, I don't know, people just were like, it's just so interesting that the culture in some of these groups and how people are. But anyway, so let's say you're a flipper, right? There you go. 7 out of 10, you're going to make a 12%, ROI on your money that you're investing. So one of the most common, not common, it's actually growing in popularity from my sense, but one of the other options, right? If you're somebody that finds this off-market deal, it checks off all the boxes, the seller's willing to sell, all these inputs are basically correct, for example, then, there's other options, right? So this is where you can really engage with the actual, ChatGPT that you couldn't in a calculator. Obviously, you could code in different scenarios, but like I said, not through natural language. So I can say, what if I don't want to flip the property? What are other exit strategies I can use? So basically what this means is if you don't, like, let's say the seller agrees to this price, like you have a deal, right? You can do something called wholesaling, or potentially, you can, like it says, buy and hold, right? There's all these different other things you can do with a property that's willing to be sold at a discount, right? You can keep it, you can do whatever you want with it, right? There's variables to consider with each option. And so what this can do is basically provide different options, right? Which obviously if you're at the point of flipping properties, you probably know these obviously, but here's where it gets cool, right? Is where I'm going to show you how we can basically turn some of these options into a table like we did in the other prompt. So let's say, for example, like I know, for example, I come across a lot of newer wholesalers. So they basically get the property under contract for $515. They know that a flipper is going to make 12%, right, at the $515, and they throw in an assignment fee of, $20 grand, $30 grand, $40 grand, $50 grand, right? So they sell the contract to the end buyer. So let's say you're a newer wholesaler and you're like, okay, well, I'm still learning. Like, this seems like it's a deal that I could wholesale, but who would my end buyers be, right? So I can say create a table for potential scenarios if I went with option 4. I want to make an assignment fee of, let's say, $15,000 minimum. Actually, let's get those assignment fees up, $25,000. Okay, so if you decide to go with option 4, which is wholesaling, and want to make a minimum assignment fee of $25,000, you'll need to find an investor willing to take over the contract at a higher price than your initial purchase price, right? So this is obviously common sense to someone that knows this, right? But here's what it's going to do. So scenario 1, your purchase price, investor purchase price, $545, assignment fee. Boom. So it's making a little table of what you could basically sell the contract at, right? So that's one way that you can use the tables. So I'll show you how, another cool way to do it too. So basically it's saying you have it under contract, at this price, which is constant. So these are the other marketing, price. This is what you would market it at, and this is what your assignment fee would be. So I could expand on this table as well. So I could basically say, create or add a column for the type of buyer I would market this to for each scenario, and add a column for a marketing strategy to sell it to that type of buyer. So this is where it should basically produce the same table, but it should show you, hey, if you want to sell it to a buy and hold investor, if you want to sell it to a flipper, if you want to sell it to, whomever, then basically it should produce a table, and it should also produce, hey, and if you're going to sell it to a flipper, right, here's how you could potentially market it, right? So it should basically be the same table, except it's adding these two additional, boom, there you go. So type of buyer, fix and flip investor, marketing strategy, attend local real estate investment meetups and network with active flippers. So same thing, another fix and flip investor, advertise on real estate investor forums, buy and hold investor, present the property at real estate investor club meetings. Obviously, some of these are not going to be like the, greatest marketing strategies, but you can see the potential of just organizing your data, right? And you can obviously change these inputs here. This is where you engage and interact with the actual AI, so that it does, that it actually produces what you want it to produce. But just the fact that it made you a table from this sample deal that I input, showed you what the investor would purchase it at, right, with your assignment fee, which, like I said, it's all simple math, but if someone doesn't have a calculator or someone wants to interact with the AI in this way, it's really cool. So one of the things that got a lot of attention on the group that I posted this in was to create the table options for seller financing. So this is number 3 in this example. So I'm going to say create a table of scenarios of potential scenarios with for option 3, seller financing. So create a table for the deal analyzed above for, or create a table for the deal analyzed above of potential scenarios for option 3, seller financing. Doesn't make the most sense, but I think it'll figure it out. So here we go. So it's going to take this deal that we input up here, right? And it's going to now produce an output for if you wanted to sell or finance the property, right? So here we go. And yes, somebody posted in the group, it's not connected to the internet. So obviously it's not going to be the actual, rate in that area, but you can change that stuff. Like I said, this is where in the group, it was just so funny because it was like, okay, so this is showing, let's see if it changes these down payment percentages. Okay, so it's showing different rates. So full disclaimer here, I'm no expert at seller financing. I'm just getting good with ChatGPT. So if you were to create, like if I were to create something like within Facebook ads, automation, funnels, or something like that, I could go extensively deep in that specific category, right? Now, like we can basically change these. The reason I say that is because if people are watching that are investors and they're like, this kid doesn't know what he's doing, like I'm not claiming to like say that all these numbers and data points are accurate. I'm just trying to show you the function of it. But I'm pretty sure we can create down payment options where we don't necessarily have to put anything down, right? And we basically pay for, we pay that seller's mortgage. So create options where I pay zero money out of pocket to the seller. So creative financing options. Okay. So like I said, you gotta know your stuff here. You gotta check your math. You gotta actually, make sure that this stuff's accurate. I'm just showing you the technology. So if someone's watching this and they're a seasoned investor and all that, like, so this should be, okay. So we need to intervene here because we don't, okay. So include these financing strategies, but create columns for the, let's see, for the loan amounts, the interest rates, and everything necessary to break it down financially. See, so I'm typing not like as an expert, right? Break it down financially, right? But it should be able to interpret what I'm saying, which is where the value of this comes in, is like not everyone's going to know the right exact question to answer or how to use things specifically. So if you can type generally, right, something that gets you in the ballpark and it can interpret that and, convert it, then now you got something interesting, right? So here we go. I think it should be, because we want it to show different combinations, and you could go really deep on the actual, financing strategy, right? Like I know the people that are in the group I posted, right? They're in the creative finance group. This is what they do, right? So you would want to make sure, like I said, this math is correct. But you can change. This was the biggest thing I think people were saying. It's not connected to the internet and the math's not right. So you can just say, change the interest rates to whatever you're engaging with the seller on, right? So if the seller's willing to give you a 1% rate, which obviously sounds insane, but if they are, you could just say change the interest rate for scenario 3 to 1%, right? And adjust the numbers based on that specific option and rate. So this is how you produce these outputs. And we also can, like I said, you can go deep, right? So you could basically, the prompt you could start with if you want to go super deep in the analysis of the creative financing options, you would just start the prompt with, and this is me kind of going off the script, but you could say create a list of 10 potential creative financing scenarios I can use to purchase this property. Here is the deal, or here are the details. So I can say create a table, and then I can say make sure to include all of the rows and columns necessary to break this down financially. So I can put in the same deal here. And like I said, if you're an expert, you'll know the right questions to ask. I just want to show people, because sometimes people just see the output and they're like, oh shoot, it doesn't work, doesn't know what it's doing. You have to, it learns by being, by these responses that we, that we input to it, right? So as this thing gets smarter, it's going to get pretty dangerous. So financing method, okay, so this is not really, let's see. Let's see if it produces those. I mean, these wouldn't be relevant really to, it's laying out multiple methods that somebody could use, but it's not basically creating actual creative finance scenarios, at least yet. This would be like a traditional flip from my understanding right here, or something close to it. Seller financing. So what I would do, right, if I really knew this subject and I think I know enough to intervene here, is I would say, no, create the table with 10 different financing methods that are all creative financing methods with rates varying from, let's just say, 3 to 10%. Like I said, I'm not a super expert, but I think I know enough to just kind of mess with this thing. So if you see it kind of trending like this isn't what I want, you can stop it and then point to the thing. Hey, no, I don't want conventional mortgage and FHA loans and hard money. No, I want only creative, financing methods, right? So let's see here, lease option, 5% option fee, 3%. Okay, so now we're getting in the territory here from my limited knowledge. Let's see. Okay, so let's do this. No, change the financing method to seller financing using creative financing with rates. Let's just do 5 possible scenarios so it doesn't take too long. Boom. So we wouldn't be looking for this. I mean, maybe I don't know what I'm saying, and this is a part of that, but from my understanding, we want to see different ways we can finance with the seller by giving them a certain percentage down and different interest rates, and what that would look like, over the, financially, the entire breakdown of it. So this looks better. So now we're doing seller financing, 5% down, 4% interest. This is 3% interest, right? So imagine you got to kind of mesh through this, but now, which is what these iterative prompts are, is you can basically, we had to kind of go through, and like I said, my knowledge is limited within this specific space, but people posted it in the group or commented, so I wanted to make a video. But basically, this specific prompt now got you right to where we needed to. So we basically needed to say create a table of potential seller financing using creative financing. Create a table. You get what I'm saying. You basically needed to say this here, up here. So create a table of 10 potential creative financing scenarios using only seller financing, and create varying rates between this percent and this percent. And then you would just stack, the rest of this prompt here, and you would put it into this. So I can put it, because I'll give you guys this cheat sheet. So create a table of 10 potential creative financing scenarios using only seller financing. I want to purchase this property. Here are the details. And then you would paste the deal, right? So now it's producing this as an actual table. So I could say, change the down payment amount. You could change all these different variables that you want. It's all math, right? So you could say create 100 different scenarios based on this, this prompt, right? Change the seller financing have it range from 0 to 10%. The rates range from 3 to 10%, and the loan term range from this time frame to this time frame. So this just created 5 scenarios based on those inputs. So it's not giving you a ton of variation, but if you know the questions to ask, you can basically get these to lay themselves out. So I could probably say create a table. So I'm going to do this, same thing. Create a table, or expand this table to have 5 more additional options with financing with $0 or 0% down, and loan terms of minimum, just say 180 months. So like I said, I don't know this whole thing, but I know enough to mess with the system so it produces the result. So, and keep in mind, you could lay out 100 scenarios. Okay, so boom. So it should show me probably this. It's still going to produce these first 5, rows and columns. And then it should be producing after these 5, right? It should be producing, options where there's 0% down, and then the loan terms are minimum 180 months versus, 60 and 120. So you really just have to correct the prompts. But once you know that initial prompt, right? And what's funny is you make a really good prompt, and then you engage with it, and then 5-10 messages later you have a totally new prompt, right? Which, for example, would be if you wanted to just max this thing out, it'd be create a table of potential creative financing scenarios using only seller financing. And you can say, you can basically say, down payment percentages should range from 0% to 5%. And you could literally say, create, if there's 100, right, 33 options for each, or no, you could say create an evenly distributed amount of options for each scenario. right? So I just told it, hey, create a table of 100 potential scenarios, and then the main variable I want to influence is this down payment percentage from 0% to 5%, and create an evenly distributed amount of options for each scenario. So basically it's going to create 20 for each percentage, right? 20 for percentage 0, 20 for percentage 1, and all the way up until 5, right? Or maybe it's 4 and it's 25 each, right? Or excuse me, 6, and then it's whatever 100 divided by 6 is 16. So you could basically load balance this thing with all the variables, because like I said, I'm not an expert at seller finance, but it's all just math. I don't need to know what these things even mean. You would need it to obviously analyze like the numbers to make sure that they're producing accurate outputs. But if I just know that this is basically just a combination of, this is one variable, this is another variable, this is another variable, they're just variables, right? So if I know I want 100 scenarios, these are the variables that go into calculating this specific type of, equation, right? Then all I need to do is tell it, hey, range, these methods from here to here, range the down payments from here to here, the interest rate from here to here, and it can create all these different layouts here. So yeah, hopefully this was valuable. I know we kind of got into a little bit of the, like specifics here within, seller financing, which like I said, in full transparency is not my strength. Like I could go much deeper with, 100 ads, right? With the headline, the copy, the learn more button, right? It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. So you can use this as an investor to basically lay out scenarios. Maybe you need to correct me, tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe some of the math here is off. But hopefully it added value, and that's my intent. I'm not here to say I'm some expert and I'm like, I know all this stuff about seller financing. It was just to show you, how to use this. So hopefully it found you well and valuable. And if you're looking for any off-market deals, feel free to book a call with my company, New Breed Investor, and we'll see if we can help you out. All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye.